Hello there, I'm Scotty, you're not, and welcome to the Wrestling Corner, as well as the first in a series that I'm doing tackling the draft episodes. I'm only doing this 2002 through 2011. I will do a short. 2005 is going to be interesting. I will do an episode where I talk about the situations. That one was different. And there was no one in 2006, really, other than RVD and Kurt Angle going to ECW and the Big Show. That's it. Going to ECW, that's it. I'll cover 2003, or 2002, 2004, 2005-ish. I'll cover what happened in 2007, 8, 9, 10, and 11. After that, I know they came back in 2016 or 2017. And all that stuff. 2016 they did the draft, and all the other times was just there was the Superstar shake-up, and then they brought the draft back. And you know what? I'm just going to stick to going to the shows to 2011. That's really the peak of the draft. So we're going to do that. We're starting off with the first ever WWE draft, or WWF draft as it was, in 2002. Set the scene for you. Ric Flair came back, and I think it was... I think it was late 2001. I think it was in December. He came back and established that Shane and Stephanie had signed over their ownership, their WWF to him. So he became 50-50 owner. And then through the months, through WrestleMania 18 and all that happened. And then they decided, okay, we're going to do a draft. We're going to split this up. Ric Flair gets Raw. Vince McMahon gets SmackDown. And this was the show that... puts it together. In early 2002, I should state that it was in February, I think it was, where Mr. McMahon cut his infamous promo where he said he was going to inject the World Wrestling Federation with a lethal dose of poison, which was the NWO with Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. Shortly after WrestleMania, though, after Hulk Hogan lost to The Rock, Hulk Hogan turned babyface and left the NWO, and X-Pac was thrown in. So that's where we are at this point. And X-Pac was partners with Kane, turned on Kane, he took Kane's mask. Or not yet, he does, eventually. Because I remember Insurrection, he comes out wearing it with the nunchucks and shit. I don't know. But yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about the show. We get a cold open here with Linda McMahon saying, laying on the ground rules. There will be... Due to the constraints of time, there will be 20 draft picks, which confused me, because I wrote down 1 through 20, and realized, no, it was 20 draft picks total, 10 per person. So I scratched those out. So I'm going through the show, so I will mention the draft picks when they come out, when they're announced, and then I have what happened after the show with the draft lottery that they did online after the show, and then some jump overs afterwards that I will talk about. So, yeah. So McMahon says that they each get 10, basically 10 draft picks. It's 20 draft picks total. They each get 10. They'll come out and they'll make announcements of who it would be. And due to the triple threat main event match, the Undisputed Champion Triple H is not able to be drafted, as well as Stephanie McMahon and Chris Jericho. See, they're having a triple threat match at WrestleMania 18. Triple H, excuse me, Triple H defeated Chris Jericho for the Undisputed Championship. This is where it's still in 2 belts, by the way. It hasn't become the 1 championship belt yet. So it's the 2 titles, and I don't know what that tongue was, but anyway, so it's Triple H defending against Chris Jericho and Stephanie. And a triple threat match in the main event of this Raw show, right? So that's what it's going to be. Okay. And due to a contract dispute, Stone Cold Steve Austin is not able to be drafted either. I'll get explained later. So, let's go. We get don't hit the entered and And we start with a match. Yes, a match. Taz versus Mr. Perfect. And if there were people who forgot Mr. Perfect came back to the WWF in 2002, we're on the same bandwagon, because I keep forgetting about that. I know he showed up at the 2002 Royal Rumble, and I guess he was a part for a while, and I think he went to TNA a little while after this. So, yeah. But Mr. Perfect gets on the microphone, and he's like, well, line, they say they say I'm the perfect pick. Something like that. And this is a quick little match. Taz wins. And then after Taz wins, he says, you may think you're the perfect pick, but tonight you're just another victim. I'm going to kind of skim through the matches because to me they're not really the most important part. They're all kind of short for the most part. So, yeah, like the talking points of these won't necessarily be the matches. It's the draft. We're talking about the draft. So, Mr. McMahon, it was funny because they cut to Ric Flair's office and you got Arn Anderson and Ric Flair. Vince gets the first pick. Or whatever. He said, Vince gets, that's it, Vince gets the first pick. So Vince comes out and he says, in honor of WWF SmackDown, my first pick is The Rock. So The Rock comes out and he get that look on his face like, what the hell? Because you can pull it off. And Triple H says, not Triple H. Vince McMahon says, I'm glad you're out here because I'm going to lay down some ground rules for WWF SmackDown. No more on SmackDown will you say, will you be threatening to stick your foot in any candy asses or something like that. No longer on SmackDown will you say, it doesn't matter. Stuff like that. And then The Rock's like, you know what? Apparently there's some kind of catchphrase where they're at, where you are something. And he's like, here, tonight, this half of the arena is going to say, you are, this side of the arena is going to say, an asshole. And then the crowd says, you are an asshole. You are an asshole. And that every time Vince McMahon comes out to the ring, or comes out to do the draft, that happens. So he started something, and the smell what The Rock is cooking. So, yeah, The Rock goes back. We go to commercial, and then Ric Flair comes out, and he says his first draft pick is The Undertaker. And they cut The Undertaker, and he's pissed, because apparently man had a deal. Well, it's not going to happen. So, yeah. And they cut to Vince McMahon's office, and Kurt Angle's standing there, and Vince McMahon's like, can you believe it? Can you believe it? He goes, no, I don't believe it. You didn't pick me. What? You should have picked me first. I'm Olympic gold medalist, former WWF champion. And then comes The Undertaker. What the hell? The hell is that? He goes, I know. You better fix it, and fix it quick. And I think they go to commercial again, and they come back. This is where the second pick take place. And Kurt Angle convinces Vince McMahon to pick him as number 2. So Kurt Angle is SmackDown's second pick. And he's like, pick me. No, I can't pick you. Oh no. Yeah, in Office. Okay, the second draft pick, Kurt Angle in Office, that's where it ends. And then it's Edge and DDP versus Christian and Booker T. Again, this doesn't really matter. There's 2 rivalries here. DDP and Christian are kind of in a rivalry. They had a match at WrestleMania 18. They're still going. At this point, it is March. So, yeah. And then Booker T and Edge had sort of a rivalry going over that shampoo commercial or whatever it was. Although Edge is about to go into his rivalry with Kurt Angle, which I guess they're still in a rivalry. Sort of I don't know. I didn't watch the programs at this point. But Christian Booker T won. Booker T's a heel here, I guess. Christian Booker T won. So that's all you need to know. And then we get the second and third draft picks, actually. So this is where, Kurt Angle is is bolstering his former WWF champion, former Let Me Go medalist, like that. He's like, hey, I know, I could pick you, but I feel like Ric Flair's gonna pick my NWO. And no, he's not gonna pick NWO. He's gonna pick me. You gotta pick me. So he picks Kurt Angle, and wouldn't you know it, Ric Flair picks the NWO. This man is pissed, but this is where Kurt Angle convinces, hey, I know your third pick can be, all right? He's gone right now, but he's coming back. He's going to be ready, and he whispers it into his ears, and where's the man goes? For my third pick, I choose Chris Benoit. Okay, moving on. Ric Flair announces his next pick because the NWO come in his office. And they're like, hey, we don't work for you. We work for Vince McMahon. Scott Hall is clearly gone here. He's like, hey, we don't work for you. We work for Vince. You know? He is clearly he's off the deep end here. He is gone. And he would be gone shortly after this. They replace him with the Big Show. He'd be let go. Yeah, he wasn't in a good place here. Eventually he would, and then, but I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but this was not a good time in the life of Scott Hall, But yeah, he's clearly 3 sheets to the wind here. But yeah, and so Ric Flair says, well, my second pick, or my third pick, is Kane. Because Kane has a problem with X-Pac and everything. Like, ooh. Yeah. So, okay, so we get Trish Stratus versus Ivory. Trish Stratus wins. Again, it's not about the matches. This was okay. It went really quick. These matches went quick. They were more about telling the story here. 4th draft picks, okay? The 4th draft pick, SmackDown selects Hulk Hogan. And then we cut to the back, and Rock and Hogan decide they're going to have a handicap match against NWO tonight. You have a big send-off from Raw. And I got to mention that everyone keeps acting like, oh, you get drafted, you're never going to be on the other show ever again. Like, ever again. You are stuck on this show forever, which is not even in the case in the same freaking year, which we'll get to. But, like, it's just like, this wasn't going to be permanent. That someone was going to switch brands anyway, and they would. Don't worry. And then Ric Flair's draft pick was the Intercontinental Champion, Rob Van Dam. And then they went commercial to come back, and once again, Kurt Angle is in the office with he's like, oh, I really wanted Rob Van Dam. And Kurt Angle's like, when did you become such a big RVD fan? Well, I'm not a big RVD fan. That's what Intercontinental Championship. Hello? You want the Intercontinental Championship? I'll get you the Intercontinental Championship. Just sanction a match tonight. And so we get the Intercontinental Championship match. And then we get more draft picks, okay? SmackDown selects the tag team champions, Billy and Chuck. Raw selects Booker T. I don't know how much farther. I just put more draft picks. Should have been more. I think it went. Yeah, I think it went here. I think it went. SmackDown selected Edge. Raw selects the Big Show, and then SmackDown selected Rikishi, and then we hung over them. Okay. So then we got the handicap match. NWO versus Hulk Hogan. I'm going to talk about this match because this match is stupid. Alright, it's decent. Going, toe-to-toe, head-to-head. But then Kane comes out and causes a disqualification. He clearly attacks the NWO, causes a disqualification, and then the three of them came on the NWO. It's Hogan, Rock, and Kane are triumphant. And as Lillian Garcia goes to announce the winners of the match, Hulk Hogan holds up both Kane and The Rock's hands. And then it's announced that the winners of the match by disqualification are the NWO. And Hogan has this look on his face like he had no idea. He's like, "What, brother?" It's just like, he's so baffled as to what. Yeah, I don't know. More draft picks now. As so they said that Billy and Chuck were able to be drafted together because they were the tag team champions. So all other tag teams must have to be drafted separate. So Ric Flair says he's going to go for one of the best tag teams. He's going to draft Bubba Ray Dudley. Vince McMahon says, "Oh, I see what you're doing. You're trying to get one of the best tag team champions in the Dudleys. Well, you know what? I pick Devon Dudley." We all know that would go to Reverend Devon, and the best thing out of that gimmick would be Batista. Yeah. In that, we got Jeff Hardy versus Billy. I didn't even write down who won. I think it was Jeff Hardy. I mean, the only remarkable thing about this is that Jeff Hardy, the Hardys and Lita came out with these jackets, and they come out, they do a little pose in the entranceway, and they take their jackets off, and then they go to the ring. It's like, what? But yeah, Jeff Hardy wins that. More draft picks now. What? How's it? Okay, I must have messed up. Okay. At some point, I must have messed up. So, I feel like Billy and Chuck, and maybe the Big Show and Edge was after this, and then we have more picks here with the Dudleys. Okay? Okay. Because we have Rikishi versus William Regal for the European Championship that does not even get off the ground. Because as William Regal is making his way up to the ring, Brock Lesnar, who comes up from the ring side with Paul Heyman, just attacks Rikishi, viciously attacks Rikishi. And then we go to commercial. We get WWF New York with Jazz, who says that something about I'm interested. Like, what do you think of Jazz? Well, I'm interested in the Divas coming over to Raw, like Trish Stratus, or because there's only one woman that's drafted in this. We'll get to it. But yeah. So after this, Vince McMahon comes out. It's not his pick. Even Jared was like, well, and he's not on the clock, King. And he comes out and he goes, SmackDown selects the man you just saw in the ring, Brock Lesnar. Ric Flair comes out and he says, it's not your pick. Yes, I know. But here's the thing. I'll pick Brock. I'll just pick Brock, and then you can have two picks. You get two. It's your turn. You're welcome. He's like, you're not changing the rules. It's my pick. And I pick Brock Lesnar. So Lesnar's going to Raw. Now, here's a point of view from me. I started watching this I started watching WWE in late 2002. A friend of mine from school was into it. He got me into it. Stuff like that. Late 2002. Right? So, by then, I knew certain superstars were on certain brands. So I figured this was setting it up. So, the first thing that caught my eye watching this, the first time I watched this show, was that Big Show was on Raw. And I'm like, no, he's supposed to go to SmackDown. Huh? And then Brock Lesnar is going to Raw. I'm like, no, he was on SmackDown when I started watching. What is going on? Doesn't last on Raw for long. But so, now I just start finishing off the draft picks here, okay? SmackDown selects the world's strongest man, Mark Henry. Ric Flair selects, and I say it as he said it, the European Heavyweight Champion, William Regal. Vince McMahon wants a championship division on his brand, so he's picking Maven, who is the hardcore champion. Again, that's another thing that made me scratch my head, because last time I remember, we had. And for Raw's last pick, it's Lita. And Vince McMahon, oh boy, 2020 2023 Vince McMahon is listening to 2002 Vince McMahon and going, yikes. Because he's like, your last pick, and you pick a woman? And he's like, you're going to turn, I know why you picked her. You think you're going to get it on with Lita. You think you're going to turn Raw into a cesspool. And I went, awkward. But, that's the live picks. I'll get to the ones after the show. So, we have the Intercontinental Championship match, Kurt Angle versus Rob Van Dam. And this is a weird ending. Okay? So, it's going pretty good. At one point, Kurt Angle has nothing. He goes out and he grabs the title, but he's not able to use it. I must have seen... I had to keep rewatching because I kept missing the ending. I must have seen this Rolling Thunder 3 times before I got to the ending of the match. But what happens is that Rob Van Dam goes to the spin kick or some kind of kick on Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle pulls the referee and he ends up hitting the referee, knocking him down. Kurt Angle then hits the angle slam, puts the RVD in the ankle lock, then the bell rings. Angle's yelling at the referee, what are you doing? What are you doing? Apparently it's a disqualification, but they never clarify. So is Rob Van Dam disqualified for kicking the referee, or is it Kurt Angle disqualified for pulling the referee in the way? It's never specified, because right after this, when he tries to, go after Rob Van Dam, then tries on the straps, tries to put him in the thing, whatever, Edge comes out, and they start their little rivalry to end up with Kurt Angle shaving his head. So, yeah. So now we're on to the triple threat match, Triple H versus Chris Jericho versus Stephanie McMahon. Now, it's not just the title that's on the line here. Titles, whatever. If Stephanie McMahon gets pinned by Triple H, she's gone to the WWF, WWE, whatever, for a whole 5 minutes. Yeah. And this, like I said, the matches is not why we're here to talk, okay? This match is good. Triple H wins by pinning 1.70, and Jericho tried to have a coup by having Stephanie lay down so Jericho would win the title and she can keep her job, but it doesn't work. Triple H wins, and he gets on the microphone and goes, nah, 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 hey, goodbye. And, and security comes and takes her away. And I bet watching this live back in the day, it meant something. But in hindsight, when we know what happens with Stephanie McMahon, which I'll get to in a minute, yeah, it doesn't work. So, that's the end of the show. After the show, Raw would get Bradshaw, Steven Richards, Matt Hardy, Raven, Jeff Hardy, Mr. Perfect, Spike Dudley, D'Lo Brown, Sean Stasiak, Terry, Jacqueline, Goldust, Trish Stratus, Justin Incredible, Big Boss Man, Tommy Dreamer, Crash Holly, and Mighty Molly, which would be Mighty Holly. And Jazz would also be a part of Raw, and Stone Cold would end up signing with Raw too. SmackDown will get Billy Kidman, Tajiri, Chris Jericho, Ivory, Albert, the Hurricane, who was Cruiserweight champion at the time, Al Snow, Lance Storm, DDP, Tori Wilson, Sky Tuhati, Stacy Keibler, Christian, Test, Farouk, Taz, Hardcore Holly, Val Venus, and Perry Saturn. Triple H would also go over to SmackDown after losing the Undisputed Championship to Hulk Hogan at Backlash. But it wouldn't last. And shortly, like a few months later, Eric Bischoff would be brought out as the general manager of Raw, and Stephanie McMahon was made as general manager of SmackDown, which is how it was when I was watching the show. Raven would get fired in September, if I remember correctly from that episode of Raw, and Saturn would leave at some point as well as DDP. Taz would go to the SmackDown announce table desk. That's English. Val Venus would end up on Raw as Chief Morley for Eric Bischoff in 2003. I don't know what would happen there. But in about September or so, they announced that if there were anyone who wanted to switch brands, they could, and at some point it would solidify and be frozen. They can't switch anymore. So, as a result of that, Chris Jericho, the Hurricane, Al Snow, Lance Storm, Stacy Keibler, Christian, Test, and Valvinus, I guess you could count, would jump over to Raw as well as Triple H, because it's weird. Triple H would be on SmackDown, but then there was a whole thing on him and Shawn Michaels, where Shawn Michaels was like, come over to Raw, we'll reform DX. You can choose over there, that sort of thing. And then, as for going to SmackDown, Matt Hardy would jump over to SmackDown. Devon, I forgot to mention, Devon would jump over to Raw again for a while. Sean Stasiak would be let go. D'Lo Brown would be there for a while. Just Incredible would leave after a while. Big Boss Man would leave after a while. I think he left. I don't think he died first. I think he left. He let go. I think he had a tag team with Bobby Ken. And Crash Holly would jump over to SmackDown. That's all I can tell from this right now. But yeah, this one, I would like to see how this would have worked. But yeah. And it's interesting that they had women drafted. Well, I agree would go over to Raw and then she'd become like a announcer lady, really. But like, it's interesting how they had, try to equalize women on both brands, despite the fact, Jazz mentioned in her promo that she's going to defend it on both brands, but it becomes a Raw exclusive belt because the Cruiserweight Championship becomes the SmackDown exclusive belt, and the Hardcore and European titles get defunct, and yeah. So I guess it equals out. And then they get a United States Championship about a year later in 2003 to be that big card instead of the European title, but I guess it works. But yeah, overall, this is, like I said, the draft moments outweigh the matches that we have, which could be said. And I can't wait till I get 2011 to talk about that horrendous, what they pulled on people in that draft was just. Well, I'll get to that when I get to that. So, what are your thoughts on the 2002 WWE draft? Leave them in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.